reached the closing session, but before that, I am going to give the award that Brent was supposed to be able to give before the keynote speech. I think I set up that session as the only one that didn't come from the rest of the program, and I wouldn't be surprised if something I did caused it not to show up for him, and so he was unable to present. So I apologize to Brent, who isn't unable to be here right now, and so instead I am going to give the award from the ACM SIGDA Technical Committee on FPGAs and Reconfigurable Computing. I can't even say reconfigurable, and I do it all the time. Is a subcommittee of the Hall of Fame committee is a subcommittee of the parent committee. It consists of 20 people who nominate a paper and ultimately decide which should be the winner. And this year it is Performance-Constrained Pipelining of Software Loops onto Reconfigurable Hardware by Greg Snyder. That was from 2002, I believe. So I think I said this already. 20 researchers in the field pick it. They solicit nominations yearly and then vote. This is the paper from when it was published. The award will be on the SIGDA website within a couple of days. And the paper was chosen because it was one of the first to target accelerated loop compute pipelines. It extended modular scheduling for hardware, and it showed how constraints could be used to achieve trade-offs between area and performance with a 3 times range of resource usage, all done automatically. It has 160 citations and was chosen because, despite the fact that the sorts of things it's talking about are common now, it was ahead of its time, and this was selected for recognition. So congratulations to Greg Snyder. And I'm sorry we didn't get to do this earlier. Okay, I have to switch slides as we... Okay. So I attended my first steering committee for this conference, steering committee meeting for this conference last year at the conference when we were actually held it in Monterey. And at the time, I guess the topic came up of how should we move parts of the conference online in order to increase viewership. And my understanding is that that was a yearly question that was asked, and so last year was no different. And last year's answer was no different of, well, that sounds interesting, but it's complicated, so I think we'll table it. Here we are. We had decades of experience and institutional knowledge in how to run a conference run a conference in person, and had to translate that this year into everybody suddenly having to understand how to do it virtually. And given that, I personally am happy with how it went. And that took a lot of people to put it together. So first, thank you to the authors for dealing with both having to record your talks in advance and distilling them in a second copy of your talk into something shorter. I think that was really important, that you were able to contract the talk into something that was reasonable for an online conference with multiple time zones. It gave people a real footing and introduction to your talk. And I think you all did a really great job of giving a really short, concise summary of your talk that was significant enough for people to be able to ask good questions. And that brings it to the audience for participating in a way in a virtual conference where the feeling is quite different, but still there was great interaction with the authors. So well done. The number of people involved in setting up the conference was huge. And institutional knowledge is important. And the way our conference has it run is there's a pipeline from now publications chair to program chair to general chair to finance. And I really appreciated the institutional knowledge that both Steve and Leslie brought, and the gentle advice they gave me in trying to set up program committee meetings and do some of the things virtually. This was the first year we had a publications chair, and Paolo jumped into the role, and I really don't understand, having had Paolo take care of not only the publications aspect, but also the a lot of the Clouder interface UI ideas, and just management of all the videos. And I could not have done that on my own, and Paolo had great ideas and managed it. And I'm happy to say that next year he will be the program chair. So I hope we're in Monterey, but if we're not in Monterey, he certainly understands how a lot of this works now. Dustin completely redesigned the website this year, moved it to a new platform, dealt in December with a WordPress attack on it, and converted it in a day to be a static site so that the attack wouldn't happen. He set it up so that the tables were really easy to edit. So I really appreciate that change. Miriam and Suheb again ran artifacts and did it unbelievably efficiently. It was all started in December after acceptances were sent out, and within a few weeks they were ready to assign badges and let the ACM put the badges on tops of papers. So thank you again. And of course, Joanne and John doing more than you can possibly imagine, setting up the backend infrastructure and communicating with, bringing Clouder to us, and then communicating with them to get all the users set up. And Ed and Ross did an unimaginable amount of work setting up Clouder. We had lots of suggestions for them. They took them with grace. We're editing the site as of this morning to make some changes, and it's proven about much more stable than I think I could have hoped for. So thank you very much. The last thing, my last duty this year is to talk about the best paper. And this year, the best paper committee had an extra task because too many of the papers looked like they might have conflicts with me. And so I was not even involved in the selection of the candidates for best paper. I don't know who won best paper. That is going to come from them. So the committee this year was Maya Gokale, Mirjana Stojlic, and Philip Brisk, and they will present the award for best paper now. Thank you very much.
Your slides off. All right.
Philip, are you going to share?
Yeah, I'm going to share right now.
Okay.
All right, so everybody, welcome to the FPGA 20 Paper Award. As Michael mentioned, the committee involved 3 people, Maya, Mirjana, and myself, and Michael was completely uninvolved in the entire process. Our criteria for a Best Paper Award is really 5 things: technical contribution and the novelty of the work. We looked in a lot of detail at the empirical evaluation, the analysis of the results, and making sure that everything was truly sound, clarity in writing and image quality. Then a general interest and applicability. Is this paper compelling enough that people who don't work in that specific sub area are still going to want to read it and learn from it? And lastly, the anticipated impact on the community moving forward. The selection process worked like this. We had a long list of candidate best papers that was provided by the program committee. We went through all of those papers and we identified 3 finalists, which have been marked in the program. We then met and we unanimously selected a winner, considering both a reread of the camera-ready manuscript. We watched the pre-recorded videos provided by the authors. We watched the live presentation in the conference, and also we saw how questions and answers were handled. So I'm going to go through each of the 3 papers right now in the order in which they were presented, and then I will announce the winner. The first candidate is AutoBridge, coupling coarse-grained floor planning and pipelining for high-frequency HLS designs on multi-die FPGAs. Why did we think this paper was significant? The idea of doing floor plan aware high-level synthesis has really been an open challenge for many years. There's been a lot of talk about it, a few papers here and there, but very little real progress. And this paper really represents a milestone in terms of how you would want an HLS tool to interact with a floor planner and the way that you would want to transmit data between the two and formulate problems that cross the boundaries. And so the other part was that the empirical evaluation was incredibly strong, where they were able to show improvements of more than 100 megahertz across 16 large-scale designs. And so we thought that this paper was incredibly impressive. The second best paper candidate is folded integer multiplication for FPGAs. The objectives here were to create a low area, high throughput, high bit width folded integer multiplier. And the thing that really stood apart here was the extent of the pipelining and the utilization that was achieved. 100% utilization of the single multiplier and 88% utilization of the two adders. And so on the bottom, you can see barely a cycle went unused. Excellent use of resources on the FPGAs. The third candidate is FRAC-BNN, accurate and FPGA efficient binary neural networks with fractional activations. Here, this was the first BNN, binary neural network, that could achieve accuracy comparable to MobileNet V2, which is a much higher bit width neural network. They were able to evaluate and deploy on a Xilinx Ultra 96 V2 embedded FPGA, and they achieved real-time image classification of 48.1 frames per second. Incredibly impressive results. And without further ado, the Best Paper Award winner for FPGA 2021, chosen unanimously by the Best Paper Award Committee, is AutoBridge Coupling Coarse-Grained Floor Planning and Pipelining for High-Frequency HLS Design on Multi-Die FPGAs. Please give the authors of all three candidates a round of a virtual applause.
Indeed, congratulations. And thank you for handling the extra duties.
You're welcome.
So now it's time for Leslie to close the conference. Do you want me to share the sponsor screen, Leslie? You're muted. We still don't hear you. I don't read lips, I'm sorry. I heard her a moment ago.
How's that?
That is much better.
When in doubt, exit and re-enter. It's a good old Windows solution to a problem.
Yes. Shall I share the screen that you...
Please.
Okay.
This really was an amazing conference and event, just because of all the challenges. I can say from personal experience, I would love to have had a publications chair. I don't know how we would have made it without a publications chair this year, Paolo, to help us. So thank you for that. Michael, you did a phenomenal job. I think everybody would agree. And if only I could be good at charades. This year's sponsors really made the conference happen. Effectively, they represent almost 3/4 of the budget that we had to operate the conference. And the reason they did this was I really wanted to make this free for students. And you saw the difference that it made, because we saw a 3.3 times increase in the number of students who were able to come to the conference. So thank you to our sponsors for making that possible. All of them made that possible, and we can't thank them enough. Obviously, we're also lucky enough to have technical support like John and Joanne. I was the program chair last year when we had a final real conference, and it was pretty amazing that we had, as Michael said, people in person, and we got to see each other without creating a super spreader event. And I don't know exactly if I realized how lucky we were until probably a couple weeks later. I do know that I had to re-envision this conference with Michael 3 times as we tried to figure out whether we were going to do it for real in person. And I thank everybody for their insight and input to getting that done. So I think we did a good job, given that this was a completely new experience. And thank you, Michael, and everybody else on the organizing committee for all the work they did. Michael, I'm extremely happy to hand off the job of general chair to you for next year. So, good luck. And Paolo, thank you so much for being our next program chair. We look forward to seeing you all at FPGA 2022, and I hopefully actually seeing you all.
That would be nice. Next year in Monterey.
Yeah. Let's hope. I'm honored to serve next year. And
the charades I do know how to do are this. The website will be open for, I'm told, about 4 weeks, with recordings of all the live talks in case you want to see them or missed them. All the paper links, and of course everything will go to the ACM site eventually too. So thank you very much. Bye.